Alright, for this section of notes, I'm actually only going to do a few examples and have you finish the rest as your homework. So I'm going to start with the composition of functions is what we're going over. I'll start with the very first example. And I'm just going to tell you, first of all, how to read this out loud. So if you don't remember this from Algebra 1, this reads out f of g of negative 3. So f of g of negative 3. Now we always work from the inside out on these. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to find g of negative 3. Oops. Let's make that a little bit smaller. So I'm going to figure out what is g of negative 3. Now g of x is given to us as g of x equals 3x. So if g of x equals 3x, and I'm looking for g of negative 3, notice I'm replacing my x with a negative 3, so I'm going to do the same thing over here on this side. It's being multiplied, so I get a negative 9 over here. So g of negative 3 equals negative 9. So I'm halfway done. Now I can take this g of negative 3 equals negative 9, and I can substitute a negative 9 in place of my g of negative 3, since those two things are equivalent. So what that's going to look like is I've got f of g of negative 3, right? That's what I'm trying to find. So f of, and instead of g of negative 3, I'm going to write a negative 9, because I know g of negative 3 is equivalent to negative 9. So now I'm looking for f of negative 9. Well, f of x is given to me as 2x minus 1. It's given to me right here. So f of negative 9, anywhere I see an x, I'm going to plug in a negative 9. Alright, 2 times negative 9 is negative 18, minus 1. So we get negative 19. So f of negative 9 is negative 19. Alright, so then that means my final answer, f of g of negative 3 equals negative 19. It's really just a two-step process. First, find the inside g of negative 3. Whatever you get for that, you're going to substitute in, and then find f of that number. So I'm going to let you do number 2 by yourself. We're going to look at 3. This is another way you can write the same thing, but this still says g of h of 24. So it's the same thing as g of h of 24. So we're going to start in the middle. We're going to find h of 24. And we're given that h of x is x squared plus 1. So we're finding h of x squared plus, sorry, h of x equals x squared plus 1. So for h of 24, we're going to find 24 squared plus 1. Alright, now 24 squared, I'm not going to do that by hand or in my head. I'm just going to plug that into a calculator to save myself some time. Although I can't find my calculator, so I may not be saving time. Alright, we get 576. 576 plus 1, so that's 577. So h of 24 equals 577. Alright, so now we need to find g of 577. So I'm going to take my g of x, which is 3x, and in place of x I'm putting 577. Oops. And then that we can plug into a calculator. I mean, we can do it by hand, but let's save ourselves some time. We get 1,731. So that means g of h of 24 equals 1,731. Alright, now for 4, 5, and 6, we're doing the same thing. We're just doing it 3 times now. But again, we're going to start on the inside always. So let's start at the very middle, h of 2. Well, h of x is x squared plus 1. So h of 2 equals 2 squared plus 1. Just plug in a 2 for x. 2 squared is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. So that's h of 2. Alright, now I'm trying to find g of h of 2. So for g, h of 2 is 5, so I'm plugging in a 5. And my g of x is 3x, so I have 3 times in place of x I'm putting a 5. So this tells me g of h of 2 equals 15. Alright, and then finally, we are going to find f of 15. And so f of 15 is going to be f of x, which is 2x minus 1. So 2 in place of x, we're putting 15 minus 1. Alright, 2 times 15 is 30. Minus 1 is 29, so f of 15 is 29. Alright, so now that I've done all 3, I know my final f of g of h of 2 equals 29. Okay, I'm going to let you do 5 and 6 on your own, and 2 if you haven't already. And now we're going to look down 10 and 11. These are actually pretty much the same as the ones from before, so I'll just do one of these pretty quickly. I'll do number 11, it's in that different form, so this is the same thing as g of f of x. And now you just notice we don't have numbers, but it's still the same idea. So I'm first going to take f of x and plug it in to g of x. So f of x is negative 3x plus 7. So I'm finding g of negative 3x plus 7. Alright, remember g of x is given to us as 2x squared minus 8. So if I go in and replace x with negative 3x plus 7 here, I'm going to do the exact same thing with this x here. And I still have the minus 8 out here. Okay, so now all I need to do is simplify this. And remember PEMDAS, you're going to do parentheses first, nothing we can do inside there. Exponent, we would square that, so we'd FOIL it. And then we multiply our 2 and then subtract the 8. For now, I'm good with you just leaving it in this form.